Hey everybody, welcome to the Sensitive Skin Magazine 9th beer virus reading, and I'm gonna keep doing these for as long as the quarantine lasts. So maybe you're free to move about in Alabama, but many of us are still not able to. But people are anyway. I've noticed everybody's like not giving a shit about this already. Like there's a lot of traffic already and people are just going around and doing the stuff they feel like doing, and God bless them. I'm staying home. I have no problem, I have no problem just staying home all the time anyway. So this is really not a big ask for me, but anyway. So I am the editor-in-chief of Sensitive Skin Magazine. Please check us out at sensitiveskinmagazine.com. You'll be able to see work by everybody who's reading tonight. Tonight our readers are J. Macon King, Francine Witte, and Ron Kolm, and they've all been published multiple times in Sensitive Skin, so you can go check that out. Also, please, you can see us on our lots of all the readings we've done so far in this series, and plus a whole bunch of other stuff, readings from the years gone by, a bunch of stuff from Bowery Poetry Club. I'm meaning to do it. I've just been stuck with a bunch of awful tasks that I'm not going to go into that kind of ended yesterday, which is great. I've got a little bit more free time. So I'm going to post I have some great stuff from like way back in the day from the Fez and from the 90s and Living Theater, some great stuff from back then I'm going to post. So anyway, our YouTube channel, SensitiveSkinTV. The easiest way to find these is search for Sensitive Skin Beer Virus. You'll find us pretty quickly. All right. Let's see. All right. Do I have anything else to say? I don't know, but you can go and look at those older readings if you want to. And I'm also going to plug the show that I'm doing. I'm doing a video cast with Tony Duchesne called The Last Watch, where we talk about the TV shows we're watching, because we're all watching TV these days, aren't we? All right, without further ado, let's get started. Our first reader tonight, let's see, asked to unmute. Oh, this is interesting. I can't unmute you myself. Huh. All right, John, you're unmuted. All right, and you're in the spotlight. Wait, are you unmuted? Yeah. Okay. First reader tonight is John Macon King. He's a writer. Macon. Okay. Writer, poet, and publisher of the Mill Valley Literary Review. And he will be reading from his debut novel, Circus of the Sun, which is set in 1979 among San Francisco's cultural, sexual, and political maelstrom. And the setup is a volatile young musician named Jack. He falls for liberated artist Bretta and her entourage, until the return of her lover reveals disturbing secrets. Without further ado, here is John Macon King.
Hello. Chapter 7, Gypsy Blues. At work, San Francisco State Bookstore, I researched the film section about my new girlfriend's father. Nominations for Oscar, Golden Globe, Tony, and Emmy winner, a star in Hollywood Boulevard. Man, Bretta was so out of my league. Rumble, crash, bookshelves collapse, stacks of books hurtled to the floor and tumbling clatters. I stagger stepped, ran through the store, not quite knowing what to do. So I froze, wondering if I should run out an alarmed exit door. Then all was still again. I had felt a couple of small quakes before, but this rumbler was freaky. Apparently just freaky for non-natives like myself. Now, natives went on about their business like the quake had been a passing cloud, like they had personal immunity built up from the '06 quake that had leveled the city. Something else would rock my world that day. Bretta phoned me for the first time at work. My immediate thought was that the trembler dashed the art collection from her walls or broke a bay window. No such luck. Bretta's fabled, shadowy friend, Winston, had returned from Scotland. She announced with excitement, "I can't wait for you to meet him. I've invited the entire entourage and friends over tonight for Winston's welcome back soiree." That evening, getting ready in my apartment, I heard another rumble. Boom, 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 boom. An aftershock. I made ready to duck and cover till I realized the sound was a rolling bass line. It sounded like The Clash. and I knew the riotous notes must be from the Boston boys below me. The music was visceral, pummeling a number of emotions out of me. Sexuality, excitement, anxiety, rebellion, more sexuality. My entire body seemed to vibrate as the song called to me. I grabbed a six-pack of Michelob. I was bringing to the fucking soiree, trotted down the stairs into their open door. Boston boys were jumping up and down in the kitchen with big grins. "Brand new," Jimmy yelled. "London calling. Wicked good." "So good," Obi yelled. We bought a Pisa 200-watt system at Pacific Stereo." Jimmy restarted the album. Obi spied my paper bag, pulled out an opener as encouragement. With beers in hand, we sung along as Joe Strummer wailed, "The ice age is coming, the sun is zooming in, and I live by the river." We all jumped up and down like kids, bottles spewing, beer foam. I was blown away. The charging bass, the echo. It was as if we knew we were jumping in an entirely new world. Exhilarated, I marched down the street. I couldn't wait to see Bretta. But Winston? The churning jealousy returned. Jimmy had mentioned that London Calling was about the 3 Mile Island nuclear meltdown just a few months back. Why'd there have to be an earthquake today? My elation melted. Outside Bretta's flat, I reflexively fished a Valium from my vest pocket to my mouth. The place was swinging when I arrived. Pot smoke and guitar music filled the air. This was, for the Haight-Ashbury, an upscale crowd. I furtively crammed the bag with my 2 remaining beers in the fridge. The group in the kitchen included Bretta's recent ex, Benjamin, who scowled at me. Bretta appeared. Brilliant in her long burgundy skirt with matching jacket over a gold midriff top. Her trademark pool chalk blue shadow made her golden eyes pop. She touched my cheek and greeted, "Welcome, all my wondrous friends." The new wave couple squealed hellos, with Robert blurting to Bretta, "My acting classes are going fabulously. I'd love you to come watch my next workshop performance." "My first time at Bretta's salon," Edith gushed, thrusting a portfolio case at Bretta. "Please look at these and tell me what you think when you get a chance." Bretta breezed through them. On one painting, she suggested, "Adore your steely blues, but why don't you try a palette knife here? Come listen to Doc." Bretta ushered us into the crowded oak paneled living room. Doc fingered classical pieces on his expensive guitar. What a culture clash. I could play decent rock guitar, though I still felt shy about performing in public. Doc was a superb technical guitarist, yet something was lacking in his performance. Bretta clipped Edith's charcoal cityscape over a painting, announcing, "My good friend Edith's latest work." Edith was delighted. Francine, in red capris and a tight, striped French sweater, moved in to look, followed by several men with eyes on her rather than the drawing. One pastor rejoined. Edith cornered Robin, a gallery manager, to ask her opinion. "Oh, it's very much Woody Allen's Manhattan," Robin offered. The woman said, "Exactly, loved it. The one with Hemingway's granddaughter." "And with Gershwin," a long sideburn man intoned. "Looks like Bretta's old work," Robin said to me in an aside. Bretta gleamed as hostess, giving everyone a measure of exclusive attention. Doc launched a ragtime Betty Boop sounding tune. "What's that Doc's playing?" I asked Mr. Sideburns. He looked at me appraisingly. "Jangle." "Jangle?" I repeated. "No, Django, Django, as in Reinhardt." He walked away smirking, I assume to share the humor of my ignorance. Bretta, whose theatrical gestures seemed natural, held up Robert's hand. "Robert is an apprentice actor at the Conservatory Theater. His class performs a scene from Streetcar next Wednesday. See him now before Hollywood snatches him up." The glass of wine hovered in front of my face with Robin attached. "Jack, that's him, Winston," Robin indicated with her glass. I looked across the living room for him saying, "Not really looking forward to Winston," before realizing Robin met the man standing right damn next to me. Winston smiled, waved to me before resuming conversation with Bretta. Winston was maybe 30, had trimmed, premature Steve Martin silvery hair, a scar on his face. He wore a loud Hawaiian shirt, seemed unconcerned how others might regard him. Bretta's hand poised on his waist with an undercurrent of more than friendship, perhaps a rip current more. Restless, I confided to Robin, "This seems like a cocktail party for our parents rather than us." This soiree is really more of a salon, Robin recited, an open house for refining avant-garde cultural social gatherings and, of course, mutual amusement. Well, I'm not amused, but you are, she laughed, started. Amuse. I looked at her quizzically and excused myself. I moseyed by some conversations. The quake damaged the Lawrence Livermore lab. Could be another 3 Mile Island. Benjamin and Sideburns' political disagreement had heated up. Benjamin said, plus, you're disregarding the nice Christmas present the Russians are giving to Afghanistan. An invasion? Bretta diffused a serious talk and accent. Confucius say, war does not determine who is right, war determines who is left. People laughed, but Sideburns protested. Now, Hegel, in Philosophy of Right, Bretta handed a platter of strawberries in front of Sideburns to Doc, which was both their cues to stop. Bretta beamed the guitarist a smile. That was splendid, Doc. Guests pattered applause. Bretta continued the floor show by pulling out the travel sticker guitar case I had spotted in her bedroom closet. As I feared, it was Winston's. Bretta, my dear, I must beg off. I've not played for months while ensconced in my Scottish castle. Perhaps if you have a set of bagpipes. Was he kidding or merely being odd? Bretta laughed, though insisted. Please, Winston, for old time's sake. He nodded in acquiescence. He unlatched the case, retrieved a pedestrian-looking harmony guitar, slowly strummed discordant chords. Some rolled their eyes while Francine twittered. Bretta patted his back in encouragement as he tuned. He was rusty. Partying resumed. I wonder why Bretta would embarrass him this way, although it gave me some satisfaction. Robert and Edith joined me. Edith said, that Winston, what a character, Robert whispered. I heard there's some are surprised he actually came back. Francine did not whisper. I heard he was a little prick. Winston pulled out a secrets box, took out 5 long fingernails, carefully glued them over his right-hand nails. Still a little jealous, I insulted him, saying, I haven't seen a dude wear fake nails outside of Hollywood Boulevard. Francine joked, or Finocchio's, referring to San Francisco's well-known female impersonator show. The group's attention resumed. As Bretta lit some candles, Winston casually explained, these are not fake. In fact, they were given to me by an old gypsy. These are the actual fingernails of a Spanish guitarist, long dead. Are you aware one's nails continue to grow in the grave? The group stared with rapt attention. Some snickered. Francine murmured, creepy. The lights went out, making some jump. Bretta's finger was on the switch. Winston continued, the gypsy told me that he had traded 2 burros and a chicken for them. Legend was these would allow the owner to play guitar as no other. He was dismayed the nails were not right for him. In fact, they were very wrong. The candlelight flickered across his starved face. He told me he could sense gypsy blood in me and that I should have them. It was macabre. Nonetheless, I found with these, I could play my instrument like a man possessed. Winston opened the guitar solo from My Guitar Gently Weeps, while fine-tuning and transposing into the bridge from Here Comes the Sun. Not bad. A cascading melody intro. Then he kicked into a heart-wrenching series of notes that gave me chills. Doc sighed. Al Di Meola's Mediterranean Sundance. Winston's finger-picking, strumming, and syncopated tapping on the soundboard of the guitar body gave the aural sensation of a trio. 2 guitars, plus percussion. Winston's performance wove together like a rich tapestry. Many of us sank to the floor enthralled. Bretta dramatically removed her jacket and with a wink placed it across my lap. She swayed sensuously, slowly at first, easing into a dance. She was captivating, juxtaposing an erect, upright carriage with serpentine hand and arm movements. Willowy, evocative, mid-Eastern belly dance moves and melds back to flamenco. Her hand claps and body movements maintain perfect sync with Winston's music. The intensity built with Winston's guitar and Bretta's stomping dance steps reverberating on the hardwood floor. Eyes follow from Winston's flying fingers to Bretta's exotic performance. Bretta plucked Francine's scarf, changed style, undulated through the room like a Greek goddess, beguiling her guests. Robin murmured, she's channeling Isadora Duncan. Right in front of me, Bretta performed a backbend while shaking her hips. I became aroused. Embarrassed, I clutched her jacket. close to my lap. Winston's lush sound volleyed and peaked, volleyed and paled, only to rise again to reach little sustains, Bretta holding her poses during the sustains. After more guitar riffs and Bretta's twirls around the room, Winston leapt from his chair, squeezed out the longest sustain I'd ever heard on an acoustic guitar. Bretta caressed the guitar body, held her pose. Winston's crescendo to a soul-wrenching, flourishing, resonant climax was mind-blowing. Bretta fell onto the sofa close to Winston, spent for perfect theatric effect. Everyone olayed, cheered, applauded, Francine exclaimed. That was the next best thing to sex. Laughter erupted. I felt jealous of this magnificent guitar man and suddenly inadequate. Even Sideburns was impressed. You sound like Al Di Meola, Paco de la Cia at the same time. Doc proclaimed, you are the Paganini of guitar. Winston held up his nails. Flamenco is really gypsy blues. I must have appeared noticeably concerned about the new coolest guy in the room, for Robin whispered to me in her often robotic way of speaking, it's cool, don't be jealous. Winston is just her missed man friend, kind of like a horse. Semi-encouraged, I moved over to the heaving bosom Bretta with her jacket. Not much of a dancer, eh? Bretta caught Winston's eyes before she whipped Francine's scarf around me and pulled me down to her, radiating sultry energy. I possessively kissed her. Francine watched with an envious look, perhaps because her scarf was getting more action than she. Doc looked embarrassed, which I thought at the time was because he had been upstaged on guitar. The entire day had racked me with disorienting moods. When Bretta introduced me to Winston, I complimented his skill but avoided conversation. In the wee hours, when all had left, Bretta and I retired to her bedroom. At last, she sighed to the ceiling. She placed a hand on my waist. Now, my Jack, my patient lover, we must consummate the pent-up passion of my performance in a rapturous dance of our own. Watching Bretta that evening, I realized how much I loved her, although I tried not to. Loving her seemed not dangerous, for that's too strong of a word. It was such a woman, risky. Now that she had fallen for me, my love was rendered safer. I knew that as I was letting myself go, I might go all the way. One does not have to be so careful who they love, but how they love. Thank you.
All right, John Macon King. Why can't I unmute everybody? Hold on, what's going on here? What? Zoom has changed their interface, everybody. So it still says mute all, even though you're all muted. So go like this, wave to John, say yay. All right, sorry, it looks like we're not gonna get applause today. What are you gonna do? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, thanks, John. And let's see. And
I had to manually unmute myself. Oh, there they go. Now you're.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Okay.
I'm unmuted, you're unmuted.
Yes.
Isn't that like a book from the 70s? I'm unmuted,
Yes.
you're unmuted? Yeah, all right. All right.
But I'm not okay.
Let's see, and I'm gonna make you the spotlight video. There we go.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for like 9 weeks and I still have problems.
I know. It's
I know.
so.
Jeez. Yeah, I foolishly uploaded downloaded and installed the new version of Zoom right before the meeting, and it's different. So at any rate, our next reader, Francine Witte, is a poet, flash fiction writer, and playwright. She has had work in Sensitive Skin, Passages North, Cream City Review, Mid-American Review, and many others. Her latest books are a poetry collection, The Theory of Flesh from Kelsey Books, a flash fiction collection, Dressed All Wrong, for This from Blue Light, Press, and a novella, The Way of the Wind, from Ad Hoc Fiction. I love the preparation. She lives in New York City. You can follow her on Twitter at Francine Witte. That's Witte.
And please do, yeah.
Yeah,
And if I
take it
get
away.
I got kicked off of Zoom like right at 8 o'clock, and I was starting to have a heart attack. So if I get kicked off, I get kicked off, and I'll try to come back, and whatever. Anyway, I wanted to thank you, Bernard, for asking me to read. I love being here. Shout out to all my friends who are here. It's like really nice, and see some really nice, friendly faces in the crowd. And happy birthday, Ron. Happy birthday, Ron Kolm. Yeah. So I'm going to read some poetry and a few short flashes. Okay, so I'll start with this. Ownership is just for the moment. Everything has to go back. Even the sky all grabby with rain at some point will have to let go. Each day, my life leads my legs wherever it wants, marches me to bad decisions and wrong lovers, as if it had forever. Goes on like the ocean that keeps drowning itself, wave reaching over wave like comfort arms, its brief stay on shore ending with a lunar pull, the same way that one day, this minute of me will tick itself out, my life raining out of my body, puddling at the edge of the sea, simple and quick, as if inhaled by the moon. This is called Shopping for the Storm. This is before, this is before all the panic buying, by the way. Shopping for the storm, the one that never comes, only I don't know that now. Right now I'm stocking up on milk and bread, gluten and lactose, be damned. I hear the soft snickers of the store clerks who've seen us all before, the men hefting sacks of salt like chubby toddlers, grabbing shovels by their scrawny necks, only to go home and tuck themselves in, same as me, wait for the avalanche to tumble, for the storm to snowball into snow, only it never does. No one wants it, of course, but it feels to me like that time I waited for Joey Goldfarb to call like he promised, how I went out and bought a new outfit, got my hair colored for the first time, and how I never heard from him again. It's funny that we don't talk about fake weather, but there it is. The weatherman's faced an embarrassed boulder, snow estimates changing and rechanging. He is waving his hand across the tri-state map. Lucky us, he is saying, the storm went out to sea, though we'll never know if that's true. Instead, I keep looking out my window, the sky, a gray face. I will wait like I did even when I stopped checking my phone to see if Joey had called. Meanwhile, on the TV, the weatherman is shrugging his mountain shoulders, the slow fade back to the news. Thank you. This is called Meat. Next time you bite into a burger, just that. Next time you bite into a burger, think about the last time someone in your line carved flesh away from an animal. Maybe it was your grandfather, 100 times back, greater than great. How his cave wife, your 100 times grandma, how to set a flat rock table, lay out the bones that had been fashioned into forks. Now, the hour is late. Sun draining out of the sky. A rumble in your grandfather's stomach, and all he can find is a baby rabbit. And here it is, food chain moment. The rabbit eye to eye with your grandfather. It's been a hard winter, ice age closing in. Your grandmother's back in the cave. She is rocking the baby, who of course will survive. There wouldn't be you. The baby will later fall asleep sucking on a rabbit bone. Your grandfather will fill his own stomach with snow and nod off, sharpening a stick that is still damp with rabbit blood. The last thing he sees is his wife, huddled in a corner, frozen rock, a table who won't last the night, the fire next to her going out with only a single spark still alive. Thank you. It's nice to see you moving because I can't tell if we've frozen. When I got kicked off before, everybody froze. So just even if you go like that, I don't really care. This is called Careful. My mother fluffs up an egg in a bowl, careful not to spill it on the sides. Her face finally unclenched months after my father's death, a death that slammed her hard, came without a word. Oh yes, there was a word, careful. Careful, the doctor said. Careful, red meat and alcohol said. To her, it was a word that came and went. Careful before a rainfall that either happened or it didn't. Careful, a broken condom, the one that made her a mother. She tells me this one drunken night when my father was going midlife, finding calm in the arms of the neighbor, the same neighbor who was the first to bring a casserole after his death. Careful, my mother holding back accusation because she said that's what civilized people do. Careful, my mother alone now, an egg, a solitary breakfast, always an umbrella, a word not spoken, a bowl she is careful to stay inside of. First conversation, maybe. So if the apple won't satisfy your hunger, what will? Here God waits for an answer. Eve says nothing. A rage begins to build. Call it a hurricane that might have torn the skin off the garden. But no, this is a patient God. Decides instead to taste the apple himself. Rolls the bitterness of knowledge around on his God tongue. And suddenly comes up with names for everything. Hurt, disease, and 1,000 more. Meanwhile, Eve is standing in the suite of leaves waving just above her head, the sudden fullness as she thinks again about what will satisfy her hunger, and again she simply says, nothing. And this is a short little poem. This is called Our Shadows Met Before We Did. Angle of sun, physics of how it lands on the sand, shadows stretched out in dark, water lifting us up. We are weightless. Words are unseen but have edges and points. They are carried to my ears on waves of sound. Show them to me. Everything that makes me love you is invisible. When I think about Jake, I think of him drop-kicked across the couch, freshman dorm, him coming back from a mixer where the punch bowl was spun with vodka. He'd sleep it off, and when he woke, we'd talk to him for hours, me and Julie, whose baby would end up having Jake's eyes. Julie would say that Jake's a goof, and everyone knows it, but that didn't stop love from smacking her in the heart. I wanted to warn her, but didn't. And 6 months later, Jake was needle dead. Julie would sleep in the scoop of the couch where Jake had flopped himself so many times. By now, her belly had swollen into a face. When she tossed and turned, I could hear her dreams where Jake had his ropey arms around her, swinging her do-si-do, the spin of it getting her passion drunk. When she woke up, she would shake her head, throw words like shame and potential into the air, let them sail like a football and splat to the floor. Now she calls out of nowhere, 20th reunion and do I want to go? We haven't talked in forever, and she texts me a photo of her son, grown now with Jake's gangly arms, only trackless. I think how sometimes the past can be fun, only not when it's a sick I finally got cured of. not when the echoes of what I should have told her and told her again. If she didn't hear it the first time, walk away from it. Another echo was saying, only this time it's for me. It's for Julie, and in a way for Jake, whose ghost still hovers above us all, an invisible hand ready to press itself down. Thanks. This next one is kind of a prose poem, and it's it's written like a dictionary definition. When you come back, maybe then I can leave. 1, a house is it is not a verb. If you never heard the word out loud, you'd say it wrong. See love. A house is taller than you. It has walls that are thicker than you. At night, it gets darker than you. See doubt. 2, a house is it is not a noun. It is a container inside other containers, and it holds containers too. It holds people with bodies and hearts. See eggshell. It's inside a neighborhood, a town, a world. See inside and inside and inside. 3, a house is I thought you were one. I thought love was one. I was going to buy a shelf. I was going to buy a dinner plate. See, trying to plant a dolphin. And I'm going to finish up. I'm going to finish up with a couple of little flash fictions. The first 2 flash fictions are in this best microfiction of this year, and that just came out. So first one's called Middle of the Night. Too late for candy or games, scratch of mommy's slippers in the hall. We are 3 days without my father, who left to who knows where. Came home from work like a night of storms and slammed his fist on the table, saying words like fired and bastard, angry like when he told mommy he never wanted kids, and me listening at the door. A terrible thing to never want your father back, but I'm thinking of tomorrow morning, breakfast of oranges, bacon curling into smiles, mommy all to myself, in the cloud of my father in someone else's sky. This is called Midnight on the Moon. Is a lonely place, black as the end of hope, like a rocket that ran out of fuel and places to go, like a man who down on earth just swore undying love to his wife and sees his lover's face on the wall behind her. The wife is a trusting thing, a planet hanging in the sky of his life, faithful and constant. She will always be there for me, he thinks. The man is happy, and the wife is happy, and miles away, even the lover is happy. Only the moon is lonely. Only the moon sees the truth, even with the sun shining all day in its squinty eyes. The man swears his love again. The wife believes him, and then later, much, much later, in the white, gauzy near morning, he will enter her like doubt. And the last one I'm going to read is this is in the best small fictions of this year, which I was very excited to get into. It's called The Cake, the Smoke, the Moon. It is 4th of July, and the pop smoking the air, and the gray foggy fingers stretch way up into the humid night and dig down into the water. We sit there on the beach. We are lined up like questions. Where does smoke go when it dies? One of us says we are children and we don't need to know. Another of us decides it is time for cake. We eat the cake, and a third one says, we have to wait an hour now. She is the one who will follow the trail of the smoke fingers into the water that even an hour from now will be lit up only by the moon. The rest of us will wait safely on the beach, cake crumbs on the blanket. We will watch the water open its mouth and swallow. The one walking into the water, the one looking for the smoke will never find it, and we can only watch as she never pops her head up like a firework dud. The lifeguards run their useless legs into the water. Even the moon knows it's too late. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francine Witte. And boy, you know, trying to figure out how to unmute everybody. I can't do it. So, boy, I can't wait for Zoom 5.01 to come out in the next couple of days. It just says mute all. It used to say unmute all. I tried pressing it and it just muted everybody all over again. There's no way to do it. I'm very angry, but whatever. All right. I'm not really angry. Anger's no good. All right, our next guest is the one and the only. Oops, not you. Where'd he go? There he is. There he is. It's the one and only Ron Kolm. Now, it says here in the bio that he supplied me, Ron is a contributing editor of Sensitive Skin magazine, and boy, does he contribute. Thanks so much, Ron, for all you do. He is the author of A Change in the Weather, for instance. Also, Suburban Ambush, Divine Comedy, Night Shift, and Welcome to the Barbecue. He's also well known for his Duke and Jill stories. I knew him for a while before I found out that he was one of the people who was responsible for, when I moved to New York and went to the St. Mark's bookstore, what I thought was the coolest magazine I'd ever seen, Public Illumination. You ever seen it? It's the magazine that's about this big. It's awesome. And he's also co-founder of the Unbearables writing group in New York City. He's being so modest here, but he's had work in Brownstone Poets, Great Weather for Media, Maintenant, Live Mag, Local Knowledge, and the Outlaw Bible of American Poetry, and probably about 500 other places. His papers are archived in the NYU library, and I am very pleased to present to you the one, the only, the eminence Grease of the downtown New York writing scene, Ron Kolm.
Thank you, Bernard. It's great that you mentioned Public Illumination magazine, because a number of these bits are from that, and I've never read most of these pieces out loud, so I'm going to probably blow much of this, but I'll give it a shot. There's a new piece called Subway Story. I had to come into Manhattan to cash my unemployment check, and I was very careful to sit in the front car and avoid the few other riders on the train. The pandemic had hit hard, and I was wearing a mask and trying not to touch anything. After leaving the bank, I walked back to Union Square and headed up to the north end of the platform, breathing a sigh of relief when I got there. Time goes by, and no train appears. I look over to my left and see a woman, maybe late 50s, toss her bag and her mask onto the tracks, then climb down after them. "Hey, what's up?" I shout through my mask. She moans and says that this is how she's going to get home. She's tired of everything. She edges over towards the third rail, and I unleash my best zinger. "Do you believe in any kind of God? Because if you do, you got to know how pissed off he or she is going to be if you touch that thing." Unfortunately, my back is so messed up that I knew I couldn't get down on the tracks to help her. A young guy hops onto the tracks and picks the lady up, depositing her on the platform. He gives her his mask and waits for the police, who do show up rather quickly. My train finally appears, and I go home, amazed at how the universe works. This one's called Privates. A long time ago, when things were much cheaper, I used to go to clubs and hear a lot of music. One of the clubs I went to was called Privates, and it was on 85th Street on the Upper East Side. At one time, it had been a private school, but that had closed, and now it was a cool place to see bands. A lot of great music happened there, from Bo Diddley to the Specials. Because of my bookstore connections, I got invited to see an exclusive William Burroughs event that was scheduled to take place in that venue. That time I was managing New Morning, a bookstore in Soho named after the Bob Dylan album. It was owned by High Times magazine, and for that reason, it was considered hip. We made sure we always had a complete run of William Burroughs books in stock. His work, published by Grove Press, was very popular. So I was thrilled at getting a chance to see him, a writer I admired in person. I'd always considered Burroughs to be the American Celine, another writer I kind of liked, and I figured that Allen Ginsberg must have felt the same way. Ginsberg seemed to surround himself with archetypes. He took along only one of each category in his extended beatnik trip. And Waldman was the token woman. Corso was the crazy dude, and Burroughs was the European experimental prose writer, the European intellectual experimental prose writer. I got there just as Burroughs was making his grand entrance, and to this day that scene lives vividly in my mind. He came in with an entourage, an army of very young men, all of them about the same height, and all very well dressed. They crowded around Bill, which seemed to raise him up so that his feet were barely touching the floor. There was a humming sound emanating from them as they passed by. It was like the buzzing of a cluster of worker bees carrying the queen to her throne in the hive. They escorted him to what looked like a gazebo, a small round structure in the middle of the hall, and then the celebration ensued. I got loaded, and the rest of that evening is just a blur. A bad day. I blew out the front tire of my bike trying to jump it over a curb at the corner of 5th Street and Avenue A. Fucking shit, I muttered, dismounting to check out the bent spokes and twisted rim. I'd have to walk my busted bike back to my apartment building, then carry it up 4 flights to my cluttered railroad flat where I tried to fix it. Freeze! A guy with a brown bag over his forearm hissed. I got a gun in here that says I now own some wheels. Take your hands off the bike and walk away, and don't look back or I'll fucking kill you. I returned to my apartment to find the door kicked in and the lock smashed. All of my good stuff, such as it was gone. I walked back over to Avenue A and bought a new lock and a sandwich and then went back to my building. As I entered, a voice called out from the darkness under the stairwell, "Stick 'em up." What the fuck? I said, I just got robbed. I got nothing left. What's in the bag? The voice asked. A new lock and a sandwich, I answered. Hand 'em over, the voice said. Can I at least keep the sandwich? I asked. No, the voice answered. It's a neighborhood that Buddy used to live in years ago. These are from Public Illumination magazine. Thank you for mentioning it, Bernard. This is Thanksgiving. It's going to be a fun time. This girl I was seeing invited me out to her mom's house in New Jersey for turkey dinner with all the trimmings. All right, I said. We had to take a bus from Port Authority and then walk a couple of miles to get there. But that was okay too. I had food on the mind. I always have food on the mind. And that part of the evening was fine. Mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, the works. The weirdness began about dinner time. We'd all had a bunch of stuff to drink. And I guess the alcohol unhinged her mom's boyfriend. He pulled out a gun and laid it on the table, which killed the conversation real quick. Then he started playing with it and waving it around. And I considered jumping out a window if things got serious. Luckily, the guy eventually fell asleep and we left pronto. I'm not seeing that girl very much anymore. It's called Spare Parts. There's a hospital half a block from where I live. I mean, really, that's the main reason why I moved here. Ruptured spleen, burst appendix. Hey, no sweat. Even the big one, a stroke. Hit me with your best shot. But I figured wrong, and I'll be the first to admit it. The hospital, my security blanket, went bankrupt and closed down, kaput. And now it just sits there, abandoned. Long, damp streaks stain the brick walls. Kids throw rocks at the windows. Always the sound of breaking glass. Last night, they finally got inside, found all the old specimen jars still intact, filled with brains and eyeballs and fetuses and formaldehyde. Those nasty kids took them to the school playground and smashed them. There were mangled parts and shattered glass all over the asphalt. What a mess. Guess it's time to move. Oh, God. These are all from Public Illumination magazine. It's called Spice Wars. I grew up, oh, this is for Amy. I grew up in a suburb of Philly and hung out with a pretty lame bunch of middle-class kids. Basically, none of us were dating. Hell, none of us had even made out yet, so we were all filled with an inchoate rage. This anger manifested itself in many ways. We would strip department store mannequins when no one was around and pretend to hump them until we got shooed off by security. But we reserved our most destructive behavior for the lunch counters every large store had back then. We would loosen the caps of the salt and pepper shakers and unscrew the lids of the sugar containers as well. Whoever followed us got the surprise of their life when they tried to season their cheeseburger or fries or tried to sweeten their coffee. Before we split, as a parting gesture, we take the yellow plastic bottle of mustard and the red plastic bottle of ketchup, and when the waitress turned her back, squeezed them as hard as we could below the countertop, depositing huge globs of mustard and ketchup that slid sloppily down to the floor beneath our seats. It was almost as good as having sex. Oh God, this is also from Public Illumination magazine. I totally apologize. It's called First Ball. It was springtime in America, the time when Major League Baseball dusts off its cleats, gets up from the dugout bench, and runs out into the bright day of a new season. And of course, a new season can't officially begin until the President of the United States throws out the first ball of the first game. And that's why Bill Clinton was standing on the pitcher's mound at Fulton County Stadium, home of the Atlanta Braves. Yep, he thought, as cheers and waves of applause washed over him. It doesn't get any better than this. He wound up to throw out and was about to release the ball when a disturbance in the crowd around Ted Turner, owner of the Braves, distracted him. Jane Fonda. Yes, it was Jane Fonda, Ted's wife, all tricked up in a sexy warm-up suit, her hooters hanging out just like in Barbarella, one of his favorite flicks, causing the ruckus, and Bill's dick began to stir too, tenting the front of his pants as he wildly threw the ball high over the stunned catcher's outstretched glove, way up into the stands, directly at Jane Fonda. Oh God, I swear I've never read these out loud. Just another one or two. Okay. It's another one about an ex-president. This is called Not Euphoric. A presidential aide, sensing it was the perfect moment to suck up to the boss, leaned closer to Mr. Bush and whispered, "There'll be another one real soon, a good war, probably Cuba, or maybe the Philippines. We'll knock off Korea and hang on to the bases. They'll never get rid of us." A sly little smile began to play across the president's face, and it was like the winter sun coming from behind a large bank of gray clouds and raining steely glints of fire off an icy, dirty Potomac River. And I'll end with this one. I read a piece by Timothy Leary, and I took out these parts. It's called Virtual Reality, and it is Timothy Leary's words. "I am not a Swami Grab-a-Buck," insists Timothy Leary. "I'm a one-night stand. Reality is an opinion. I am exploring for the first time in my life the amazing wonderland known as senility. I'm a Celtic Socratic bard," he continues, "who keeps moving all the time and is out of town before they can arrest me. My brain needs a rest," he concludes. And I thank you all very much. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Francine. You guys are just, thanks so much. Thanks, John. This was wonderful. Take care.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks so much. That was awesome. And let's see. All right. So thanks again to all our readers, John Macon King, Francine Witte, and Ron Kolm. And come back next week when our readers, if you were tuning in early, you know who they are. They're Patricia Carrigan, Peter Bushyager, and George Wallace. And now you know just how much I fly by the seat of my pants, not only in regards to this show, but in the rest of my life as well. All right. Thanks, everybody.